wanted to actually warmly welcome everyone this morning to make it out in the cold weather to join us. Before we kick off, I wanted to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Gera and Turrbal people, whose lands we are gathering and meeting on today.
Okay, so thanks everyone for coming. As usual, as you know me, we like to get into the strategy zone before we start. So if you just want to close your eyes, and what we're going to do is we're just going to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out, and then hold for another 5, and we'll do that twice. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just a big breathe out. Feel any different? Maybe not. It's a bit quick. But but anyway, it's in the morning. Everyone's pretty loose. Everyone's pretty ready to go. So thanks so much, Samantha, for the introduction. So Robert Walters and Strategic Architects, we've been doing a lot of things together for many years. Regular AI Fridays, Donald, we pump them out every week. But my biggest memory is my first introduction to Robert Walters. It was a conference room like this, and I was sitting on one end, and there was 5 people interviewing me on the other end. Talk about freak out. So I remember that, and we've had a good relationship from there. But we've got to get some more AI Fridays going. So, right. I wanted to tell a story to start off there. Last year, I went down to Melbourne, and I had an Uber driver, and he said, "Listen, okay, you're in IT consulting." I explained that, and he said, "Listen, I really want to get into cybersecurity." And I said, "Well, have you had any training? Have you done any training in cyber?" "Oh, I don't want to do any training, but I really want to get into cybersecurity." I said, "There's a lot involved, there's getting the data, making sure there's no unauthorised access, attacks, and making sure that the data's secure, and there's a lot of work that you need to do around data." He said, "Yeah, that sounds great, but I want to get into cybersecurity, and I don't want to do any training." And then funnily enough, there was a couple others of Uber drivers, etc., that said the same thing, and they didn't really know about data, and they didn't really want to know about data, but it was the big thing. And cybersecurity is becoming very much a force at the moment that we need to address. And as a lot of you here, Jeff, etc., know the importance of data governance with that. Yeah, I thought I'd just make something up there. Now, IT. So AI is now becoming one of the biggest things. Like we did a book back in 2019, AI and Data Strategy. Everyone said we're too early back then, but you usually do strategies early, don't you? So AI is now really starting to move. Now again, not an Uber driver, but a taxi driver this year said to me, "Oh, listen, you're into IT consulting. I'm pretty good at ChatGPT, and I reckon I can knock up some apps. Have you got a job for me?" And I said, "Well, again, have you got any training? Have you done any, development training? Do you know much about AI?" And it was the same sort of thing. "No, ChatGPT does it all. It does the code. But it's a bit more involved like that." And again, that conversation that I had was around data again, and the importance of data and what you need to do, because AI, you need quality data, as we know. Data governance is one of those big things that people are going to be starting to talk about. So today, we're going to talk about data governance. We're going to talk about how it can apply for AI and also with cybersecurity, and how it can be strategic rather than just something that's done in the background. I've had assignments before, and Ven and I have been involved in them as well, where the data governance is not a big thing. It's done with policies, procedures in the back door, not stakeholder engagement across there. That organisation has now had a cybersecurity incident and their focus is now on the data. So we really need to be key with that. Okay. So these questions. How do we prioritise trust in strategic AI initiatives? How can strategic data governance be implemented to form the guardrails to be able to make it operate? Can we ensure that the sharing of the data meets the privacy and security requirements? And how can strategic data governance be an enabler? So why am I saying strategic data governance? It's around not having it in the back door. It's around being stakeholders involved. But I've just bolded a few of the terms there that I think are important. So empowering people. So that empowering people is about getting the roles and responsibilities out there, getting data stewards, data custodians in place, people that know the data, giving them the responsibility to be empowered to make some changes, you know, to enforce data quality, to be able to do that. Proactively manage data securely. So they're able to proactively be involved. You've got policies in place, you've got a community of practice potentially, you've got actual things happening in the organisation to get that managed. And you're a key to stopping cybersecurity incidents. You're a key to being able to make sure that the code that the AI uses is of a good quality and that it doesn't have a bias attached to it. So businesses' strategic vision, again, is we're aligning that AI work and the data work to the strategies that are in place, and we're trying to deliver business outcomes. So effectively, we're working towards a goal of delivering those business outcomes. And if the business outcomes that I've got here, so you've got your corporate strategy, you need to make sure you align to that, and that may be with your data strategy, may align to your corporate strategy and your data governance as part of that. Your operations, your business, so the people that are operating, implementing things have got to know what the data governance is in place, corporate support, and not just your internal stakeholders, but your external stakeholders that might be contractors that access your system, etc. And then on the right-hand side is the data outcomes. So data governance is part of data management, and then data management's part of data strategy. That's the way I like to look at it. And your data governance needs to be a key part of the data strategy. We were talking to Samantha before about how we put data governance in a line on the data strategy and on the digital strategy. So it was quite important what we do. So, and then data literacy is one of those key things that you can get across there. How do we use data, get people appreciation of data? We're also doing a data literacy course with a government department whereby we're trying to lift that data literacy, and the data culture is attached to that as well. And we've got the data products and services in the middle, data monitoring, performance management, data catalogue and data research. So effectively, Jeff, I've reworked your diagram. This is version 3.0. Okay. So some more questions here. Now, I'm not going to cover every slide. So what I've done, it's in a landscape format. So you'll get this as an ebook. We'll send it out as an ebook, and you'll be able to actually print it as well. So it's not in the normal wide PowerPoint one that you can't print. So I'm not going to cover every slide, but just a couple of things there is around that to produce high quality data. And I think we want to focus a bit on that today because that's where we can really make a difference across AI and across other initiatives that we're doing. Okay, so just a bit of a cartoon. Dale, we need more soil data to analyse. Hey Mary, I found this soil beside the road, not sure of the data quality. Soil is soil, just dump it in the lake and we can analyse it later. Now, I did do this in ChatGPT. Only took me 15 minutes to text to image, but it is something that we need to get more focused on insights rather than data. You know, data is data, and it can be quite brilliant when it's analysed and provided, but we need to get focused on what it can produce. Which leads us to the Data Insights Action Framework. So the first layer here is data, and that's where you have a range of data, potentially a data lake. It's got a lot of data in there, and for instance, you might have some figures in there around unemployment. So information, you might be able to work out that, okay, there's 10% unemployment in a particular region. Knowledge, this particular region, over time, you've looked at the stats, over time, it's seasonal in this region, this 10% that's contributing to it. So insights, you can say, okay, well, we could potentially, you know, put a program in place or something around the insights because it looks at seasonal, it's say a Sunshine Coast or a tourism area, whereby those people are only working part of the year. So we need to say put a job training thing in place. And then the actionable insights is actually doing that, effectively doing that. And also with the ability with prescriptive analytics is you can actually predict the future. You can do the future. You can actually put something in place that'll change things in the future. In the olden days, we did a lot of descriptive analytics. We did, say, a Power BI report about, okay, this happened per month, etc. But as we're going through, we're moving towards the predictive analytics and the prescriptive analytics. And why this Data Insights Action Framework is important and relevant here today is the data governance is attached to all of it. And you can even call it information governance at this level as well, because what we've got to do at all of those levels, we've got to make sure we've got ownership of the data. We've got to make sure that if the data changes for the AI model, for instance, that it's addressed, people are owning it, people are knowing where it's stored. So the data governance is about discovering the data and then classifying the data effectively to be able to use. Okay, so another detailed slide, but really there's plenty of ways in which AI and ML are affecting the community. So intelligent systems and services, just think about your natural language processing, your chatbots, your virtual assistants, innovation and disruption. We talked a little bit about this before, about deep learning and some of the aspects of that and how that's enabling, say in the health area as well, that type of ability to innovate and disrupt. Autonomous systems, we're getting to the stage where we've got a lot more autonomous vehicles happening, and that will be definitely happening in the future. Personalised and customisation, a lot of that's good, some of it's bad, but you visit a website, you get personalised information, you're actually targeting what you need. Sometimes I click on something inadvertently, then I get about 55 ads for the next month about that product. So that's probably not a good thing, but it definitely is personalising and customisation, which you can do through your business. And then there's human-machine collaboration. We talked a little bit about this when we were talking in the breakfast, is how can we get the AI to be a partner to us? You know, you've got your example with ChatGPT and the ability of your working and how you're doing your job, etc. But we could get to the situation where you go to visit your GP. The GP has a knowledge about you, but they've also got a lot of research and everything that they can find out, and the AI can assist them with that. Potentially in that circumstance, they may have images where the AI can assist as well. So we're moving towards that human-machine collaboration. And if you look at the industrial revolutions, we're currently in the fourth industrial revolution, whereby the blurring of digital physical and the human-machine collaboration really is coming into Industry 5.0, which you'll start to hear a lot more about, whereby the IT is really, and AI is really helping us in the future. but I wanted to have a action diagram like we did. Now I'm not going to focus on this one. The only thing I'd just like to mention about this is it's got a lot of good information about data governance, is the insights-driven culture. So data governance can help to do a number of things. Like it can help to make sure that people are more confident about the data, that they understand that the quality, they understand the measures that are in place, and that data literacy has been improved so that the insights-driven culture is a way in which they are using the data better, and strategic data governance can be important with that. So interesting, I've got some steps here on setting up a strategic data governance program. It's fairly useful. The AI and data strategy is whereby we have that AI and data strategy that overlaps, and data governance is a key component to that. Selecting the right model, validating the data, test the training module. If you're getting into the AI sort of thing, data governance does play a key role in there. We need to make sure that the data scientists, for instance, are not just beavering away improving data quality. So that's a key thing there. And I did want to pose a question to you all around the data quality and the use of AI. Has anyone really found in their organisation that data quality is holding them back?
I'll give you a policing example. They might say that we might be biased against a particular part of the community. Well, if we are, that data is in there and it's important. And if it's done because of inaccurate recording, that's good to know and it's good to measure. So we've actually found it, in a way, empowering rather than restrictive, because it does open up conversations that are typically difficult to have. But at least you can open it up with facts.
Yeah.
So it's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
We have conflicting information, conflicting data from different clinicians.
Yes.
So then you have 5 different versions of it, and it's which one is actually correct and which one are you going to use to learn from. Yeah, and if you kind of choose the wrong one, I mean, it's causing a business issue where somebody has to have 5 screens open in front of them and then make a decision based on that info. So that's an issue. It's time consuming, it's irritating, all that kind of stuff. And then, have I chosen the right one? And some of it's quite important information, like allergy, for example. So yeah, data quality is key for us, and we are definitely all over that, and we've done a lot of that already, and that because if you start applying ML to dirty data, or data that's not accurate, it keeps learning the wrong pattern. And there's no business outcome from it.
No, absolutely.
And if they don't address that too, they could be showing the wrong data to the execs.
The literacy is improved a lot in terms of the need of improving data quality. That is a great thing. Whilst most of the organizations are still having, obviously organizations have been there for years, decades, so they have old data. Previously, many years back, I guess the executives weren't having that visibility, or the real problem, where the real problem lies, that visibility wasn't there. Now it's changed a lot, so there is appetite to improve the quality of data, but it all depends on the context. On one side, it could be highly empowering because you can have the right conversation and then actually invest the money in the right place. On the other side, then you're right, it's about where should I focus my energy and money. Those are contextual, I would say.
That's a good segue into AI, because that data governance is really got to be established, and we've got to know the purpose of the data. You know, we can classify, we can make sure there's ownership and everything else, but it needs to be used for the purpose it's intended for. Obviously, outside of government, there's a lot of data about yourself, you know, and I saw a recent analysis of all the data that you can get about a person. Is quite a lot from social media and everything else. But the thing about it is, in government, we need to make sure that the data that we collect not able to be accessed in cybersecurity, and that's where that data governance come in. So without getting into this in detail, there's operationalising AI. There's a lot of steps that you can take around that data availability and data quality to get it to a stage where you can trust AI to do and is exactly what you're talking about. That model development and training is based on that data quality that we have. Things like scalability and deployment. I often see, okay, we've just developed this great app, you know, this is going to really revolutionise things, and then when you take the covers off, you see, okay, well, that app's not actually talking to any of our key systems. How's this going to work longer term? You know, and health is one particular one. There's a lot of apps, great apps that happen, but it doesn't actually communicate or integrate with the information that you store. So that can be a thing. So scalability, how do we deploy that and how do we get that across? And that links to that integration and capability, because how's that data integration going to work with the new models and the new applications that we've got? Obviously monitoring and in maintenance, but with that ethical and regulatory compliance, we've got a whole range of work that we've got now around AI ethics, and I'll talk about that later, but AI ethics is going to be, you know, every department's going to have a role in AI ethics to make sure that they apply the principles that have been released by DTA and ethical behaviour with AI. So operationalising AI, we've talked a lot about data quality. The data literacy and data culture is important. So just with cybersecurity, where our greatest threat is, you know, the behaviour of people, give it emails or what they do, that can be where cybersecurity incidents can happen. Just with that, the data literacy and data culture is key for operationalising AI, and strategic data governance has a role to play in all of those to improve the data literacy, improve the data culture so that we're making decisions based on facts rather than gut feel, and that they've got the data quality in place. Now, so we have another presenter. So Ven, welcome to the stage.
Well, hi everyone. Look, a lot of topics were already covered. There's really good interactions we had. This is an interesting topic. Whilst it is at a very, very high level, we can see those three big concerns that AI AI solutions sort of pose at us is privacy, ethics, data security. So look, it may mean several things for everyone who's operating in that space. One, from a privacy perspective, it could be as simple as misusing private PII sort of information. It could be from ethics perspective, showing some unexpected bias. And from data security, it could be anything from misusing the models and ingesting sort of altered information so that the model behaves slightly differently, and all the way to the extent that you could almost extract PII information out of the models as well. So it could be as bad as that. So this, in a sense, these three are pretty key areas to focus on from a strategic data governance perspective, and that's where there are a lot of I suppose regulations starting to come together. We've heard from international organizations who are starting to put some regulations. We got sort of our own Australian data privacy laws, which have been sort of updating the AI regulations, but it's still not there in a sense, right? It's we are hearing about obviously various breaches. We are hearing about various challenges in terms of data leakage. So why is this happening? And this is all real. We've heard of examples like Facebook's Cambridge Analytica scenarios and so on. So as we are actually blurring the data between corporate information that is sitting within the corporates and the social information, the blurriness is increasing, and that gets very challenging with starting to use AI solutions. So what I'm trying to get to is the risk is getting more close to imminent, and if no action is sort of taken. And in terms of establishing this governance function, how far and deep can you go? So you got to be pragmatic because it's all about investments, right? And hence having this strategic angle of data governance plays a key role, because you want to drive that all the way from the top to all the operations that you do. So I just wanted to pick one example, and which sort of impacts our everyday lives. It's about credit scoring. So when we want to buy a property, which is obviously one of the biggest challenges today, credit scoring becomes key. And previously, historically, it was really simple. What's my income? What's my expenses? Some basic behavior over the last years about some defaults and so on. And there you go, you get your credit score. But it's not anymore the same. So it's getting more and more complex. Now it's all about, can I actually get your personal information so that I can be more accurate about what I can offer you? Can I see your social media profile behavior and so on? So it could go to any extent. And what does that mean to us? We may actually, one is how it's impacting the individual in terms of what credit score you get, and hence the impact on the loans you get. But then it's also an impact to the organization who's actually offering that credit scoring capability, because for them, they are not having a reliable business anymore, because they cannot interpret themselves how this AI is going to actually apply that credit scoring if you don't have the right controls in place. So and hence exactly, spot on. And that's where it becomes critical for you to understand how you implement this AI, and if you really want to, because the parameters that you apply for credit scoring is not as straightforward as it used to be. Well, you have to have some governance around it, and that's where I'm trying to get to. So there are a couple of things that I wanted to touch upon, just generally about how AI can actually behave in terms of data leakage caused by all these parameters that you see on the screen. So number one, it could be as simple as group biases. So you may be falling into a category or a cluster that says, you are either in a border case, you are not meeting a salary criteria and so on. So whereas it could have been a very simple assisted model where you can drive those parameters and so on. So they could be, so AI can actually bring various sort of challenges, and hence you got to manage them very, very carefully. There are, in terms of some basic principles that you could apply from a strategic data governance perspective, could be number one, be on top of all the big changes that are happening in the regulatory space. That is, constantly be aware of what the obligations are from a data perspective. You also keep yourself educated in terms of the internal and external involvement of your stakeholders, whether they are vendors or whether they are your own employees. So like Nigel was saying earlier about being aware of your external stakeholders as well. Some common controls that you can have is about data minimization, instead of bringing everything into the data lake, transparency and consent, and having good strategies around access to information. So these are some key things that you could consider. Look, I just wanted to mention also very briefly, because we are seeing the screen, and this data leakage can happen sort of from anywhere, and hence it's sort of important from an AI perspective that you have some technology considerations also made. There are a lot of changes that are happening in the world. One of the key things I wanted to mention was PETs, which is like privacy enhancing techniques, which these are strategies that you can apply where, for example, things like homomorphic encryption, there's a lot of terms, federated learning, etc. So there are various strategies where you can actually, for example, obfuscate data in a more strategic way, even using AI, so that you can reduce the risk of privacy. Even things like, which are counterintuitive, but things like paradoxical strategies where you apply, put some noise into your AI systems so that you can hide some of your PII information in a more efficient way. And these could be strategies that you could apply and sort of reduce some of these scenarios.
So thanks a lot, Ven. We're doing a bit of work together, and he's the brains behind the operation. I really like this illustration around those boundaries that we're trying. Data governance is trying to keep it in, trying to get the standards in place and everything else. But there's this data leakage. You're not going to stop everything. You're definitely not going to stop everything. There's practices that happen, and there's inability to stop everything because we're looking at a real world examples. But putting those things in place does get you a lot better. And it's also, and we've talked a lot a bit about this as well, if there is a data leakage, if there is an incident, it's more about how you respond to that afterwards. It's the plan that you've got in place to do that. And particularly if you've got data governance in place and you've got a lot of the policies in place, you can make the alterations. You've done your due diligence already, and it'll go a lot better than if you didn't have that in place. So things are going to happen, incidents are going to happen, but it really does help in that area for sure. Okay, so with the strategic data governance in 90 days, you've probably been aware of Gartner, etc. always has 90 days. But the thing about it here is the way that I've shown it here is just imagine you are appointed to a data governance role, even potentially it could be a CDA, it could be a Chief Data Officer. So just imagine if you were appointed to that, what would you do? And I think that first 30 days is all about discovering, talking to as many of the stakeholders that you can, finding out what's done there already. Do not go into a place and start redoing everything. Make sure that you can find out, there might be previous consultancies, there might be really great stuff, but it hasn't hit the intranet, that quite often can happen. So understanding that, evaluating that, what have they got their data domains in place, their business domains? Have they got a business classification scheme? Have they already got a data catalogue? All of those things could be in place, so make sure you look at it. And just briefly, it's more about that strategic thinking. Is the strategic leaders involved? Are they aware of all this information that's been done in the place? Then in that next 30 days, that conceive and formulate, you're really doing, and maybe a data strategy might need to be done, defining that. You're putting together the data governance program. Potentially at that stage you might be looking at a data governance council or a community of practice, or redoing what's currently there, revitalising it, making sure there's speakers involved. And I've got that the communication's right through it all, but it's definitely where you can start talking the talk, and this is what we've got and what's happening. And that we're talking about, okay, we've done this data maturity model, let's start actioning that maturity model. What's their current state, the future state? How do we get to that future state? Potentially data policies, procedures, they might need to be in place. If there's none of those other things that I mentioned before, you need to start putting those things in place, and that initiative. So sometimes you don't get 90 days, or 90 days might be, if you're in a bigger organisation, that might be 2 years. So depending on that, you've got a runway to do things. But obviously these days you need to have action straight away, and that sort of plan can be helpful. Yeah. Yeah, and there was a culture, like when I worked at council, there was a culture around the project management, say around the highlight reports, for instance. You have to make your highlight reports with all the greens there. And they're sort of meaningless if they're all going to have greens on issues and quality and time and everything else. We need to be able to, I think I was talking to Hugh or a couple of the others on Thursday night, because there was another event there Thursday night, and we're talking about this, and it needs to be able to be, we need to be able to have an orange there and not get criticised. We need to be able to have data that we can put in place, and a culture that enables you to be open and transparent and be able to provide that sort of information. And we ended up putting a data quality indicator on some of these reports to show that they were what was done in the place, and putting together the Microsoft project environment was enabled to take a lot of the responsibilities from the project manager. They had to report because they had the history, etc., of times, etc. Yeah.
With that one, they were able to move to even a digital boardroom. where people actually had real-time data for decision making in certain things. That's a very powerful indicator.
Yeah, I found a data quality indicator was put on the report, and if it's 80% was good enough really, because what the data quality indicator, they use the Azure Purview to look at the data life cycle, and at each step of the data life cycle, if you have someone having to do something that they shouldn't do, like say they can't get the information from SAP, so they're bringing it to an Excel spreadsheet and then populating in a Power BI report, there's potential for that data quality to go down, and that wouldn't be the issue. So if you've got that indicator in there, like Judith's saying, and then you're getting that ability, okay, well I can trust this information, I can actually make a decision on it, and I know it's fairly accurate. Yeah, so potentially you could, so if you had a lot of problems, and we talked about this data quality audit that's happening, potentially you've got a lot of problems, potentially you classify the data and you look at the high value, high risk ones. You know, maybe the first top 20 information assets that have that, and then get that right before you can go on to everything else. Because I mentioned that the conversations with the cab drivers, etc., because it's interesting that even in the business sense, we're all about, you know, AI, you know, let's start using AI. The data conversation can be a lot more difficult, you know, talking about that, making it interesting, but it really is the driver. And what I found when we talked about the data strategy and the data governance stream, etc., you know, having a specific data quality audit, you know, that you can have, then you can demonstrate that and potentially use AI and show, say, prescriptive or predictive analytics, and show you know, examples, say, around asset management or whatever it is, and show the ability that data governance can have, and then you can get that part of the conversation. But I do run data governance courses, and I've noticed there's been a big shift in government to a lot more interest, I suppose, around that. Yeah. So it is that big driver, and the ability to, from before that data leakage, the AI can operate a lot better if we've got quality data. You know, everyone's talking about digital transformation, and we talked about how hard it was, Judith, on Thursday night. But the thing about it is a lot of agencies still have a lot of legacy. You know, we've still got Hibiscus, we've still got a lot of these legacy systems that are difficult to do. So we need to operate in that environment. We need to have that bread and butter. I think Ian and I, we were talking yesterday about we need to know what our applications are, our technologies are. We need to have that roadmap, because we need to use AI and have it in great, and the potential of AI, but we need to sort of bring our systems and our architecture up to speed as well. So it's a bit like the 2-speed that Gartner talk about. We have these agile projects, but we need these foundational, longer term projects of moving ourselves. So yeah, we've got this 9-year in health. We've got a 9-year digital platforms plan. But in that 9 years, we've got a lot of stuff going on that can directly help patients and clinicians. So just in these next few slides, we don't need to go through them all, but this one's around people. So you've got your boosting your people, process and technology. So with people, the whole range of things that you can do. You go to the next one. You can do a range of things like stakeholder consultation, culture, continuous improvement, conducting surveys. That could be just like an MS form survey, or it could be like a Mentimeter one that I do live. Process improvement teams, training, recognise and award. But really, there's a lot of things you can do. My one big learning with this is around, if you're going to be implementing AI or robotic process automation, with a particular area, say it's in your procurement area, you've got to involve those people, because those people, their role's going to change. If you get involved them early, get them involved in the decisions, maybe they're involved in, okay, this is the process I currently do. And we say, oh, well, don't you do these things every week? Can't we automate those things? And then they get a chance to think, okay, well, maybe I can help the customer more. Maybe I can do this more. You know, procurement, for instance, has long time periods sometimes. 6 weeks to get something done. If they can reduce that to 2 weeks, they can then be working on things where, okay, how can we improve this better? How can we communicate better with the customer? So that's the one big thing with people that I found. And that links to process as well. So if you've got your data governance process, you go right through the vision, strategy, governance framework, committee, and then managing the governance value and then refining and progress. So when we looked at the 90 days, you're starting off around here when you're looking at what you currently have, revitalising that strategy, but then refining it as you go. And the last one is technology. And obviously there's a lot of work happening in this space. There's a lot of tools like Informatica, Azure Purview that we have in place. But the technology can be one of the most important things there. You have the right tools in place. You've got your metadata management. You're storing things correctly. You may have a data catalogue. You might have a business classification as well. You're looking at your data lineage. You understand through your technology tool. You understand what happens to the data when it's collected right through to the end. You'll have definitions in there to make sure that people understand the data, and that can be a data governance portal in itself. So you can either operate with the digital platform that you might have in place. We talked about Salesforce. We talked about other like ServiceNow. There's tools in there that you can use to apply data governance, or you can have a specific tool around data governance as well that you can use. Yeah, I like this one. It's nice and colourful. It's one of the good things about it. But one of the good things about our data governance maturity model is you can trap it right from 0 to 5. So if you look at people, process, information technology that we've been looking at, breaking it up in there, it goes right through from 0 to 5 on that changes. And I've got, in our consultancy, I'd have a spreadsheet behind this with a lot more information. But your people, you can track that from, say, siloed teams, no ownership, no information, no responsibilities, to be that data governance competency to deliver right across the environment. So, and we can tailor this for a particular government department as well. But the thing about it is process is not, quite often when I've looked at data governance maturity models, process is all over the place, here, there and everywhere. But if you can just sort of wrap it up with people, process, information and technology and analyse it that way.
Nigel, one quick question. When you were talking about the maturity, how often would you run the maturity?
Yeah, so you run it firstly. So you run that maturity and basically work out what the current state is for across people, process, information, technology. But then after that, we'd need to look at, okay, what are we aiming for transitional state, say in a year's time or 2 years' time, and then what are we trying to get as a future state? And then, for instance, there's, as you see, it's pretty detailed, but there's other actions you could put in there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that could go to different managers. They could be, okay, he has to do this activity. That's his activity. Say maybe a community of practice. This person has to put that in place and tick that off. This other lady, she has to do this activity. She needs to do the data governance policy, for instance. So you have all these activities, and then you regularly monitor it. So the answer would be possibly like once a month. You need to say, okay, this is what we've done, and this is the impact on the maturity model. Okay, so I guess if you've got any questions as well at this point, but I just thought I'd have a slide here on some of the key takeaways. So consider how data governance can be strategic. You don't want people just beavering off in the one room and not talking. When you start at a place, get around, get the stakeholders involved, and make sure your data governance work is aligned to your business strategy and your data strategy. This is key. Capability-based approach. So you saw that in that last graphic. People, process, information, technology. Don't forget about one of those. Consistent, usable, trusted, secure. We talked a lot about data quality and being able to get that in place and how it can assist with your cyber security and your AI. Cross-functional team. I did have a little bit more information on that I took out, but cross-functional team needs to be not just data governance, admin officer type of thing. You need to have representation from your data scientists potentially in there. You need to have representation from strategic leaders and report up to, like say, your senior management team. So, and the other key thing is from a particular business area. So in health, you'd need a clinician's person or patients or whatever. You need to have that representation. And wider, out of that team, you'd have the decentralised data owners as well. Organisation-wide data governance policy, choose a tailored solution for your technology and potentially use what you have in your digital platforms that you might have, and make sure that your metrics align to the strategy and create those data governance documents that are needed for that's our services. So data governance and data architecture is one of the key services that are there. But we've talked about it before, is the enterprise architecture and the digital advice is one of the key things that we do as well, and the supporting capabilities down below. And just a little bit of a deeper dive into that data architecture, information and data governance is each of those services are broken down into a sort of like a service catalogue of what we do and what we're involved in, but definitely a lot of data initiatives that are happening at the moment. Yeah, so there's the details. So I'm pretty sure I've got everyone's email address, so we'll be able to shoot out the ebook and take it from there. So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to Robert Walters for putting this together. Thanks to Alex on the slides there, Donald for organising things, and Samantha. Well done.
Thanks, Nigel. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Please feel free to stay and have some questions if you want further conversation. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure to host all of you. And thanks, Nigel, for that presentation as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Judith O'Callaghan. I'm one of the program directors working in the Queensland region. So the presentation today by Nigel was excellent, and he covered the conscious pause, or the importance of conscious pause that is required as we work on data, AI and machine learning in the future. There is power in managing the data well, and there is power in managing the new functionality coming out in AI and predictive analytics and machine learning really well. So it is for us as a humanity that we take a conscious pause and see where we can get the maximum value. Thank you.